Hi there, welcome back. So today's video, Wayne is doing the demo and he's going to use this wooden hoop. And I bet you can't guess what he's going to make. Well, you probably can if you've read the title to the video and seen the thumbnail. It's basically using two wooden hoops, which I believe are usually used for embroidery. And we're going to make them into a hanging window decoration. You'll see what we mean as he progresses. So after a lot of deliberation and a couple of trial goes at what to put this on, this outer hoop on, so this is the bigger of the two sizes, we opted for some greaseproof paper or parchment paper. Now we wanted something that resin wasn't going to stick to, something that would give a nice smooth background too, because we're going to pour resin onto this and we wanted it to be ripple and crease free. Now unfortunately the heat from Wayne's hand is actually causing a few ripples already, but you know, it is what it is. And at this point we didn't have any plastic, just clear plastic that we could attach this hoop down to. Now he's using a hot glue gun to fix the outer hoop. He hasn't fixed the inner hoop. What he's doing is just placed it in where he wants to position the inner hoop, and now he's using some UV resin and he's filling up the space, the outer space in between the two hoops. Now you can see Wayne's not wearing gloves. Of course, he was very confident that he wasn't going to get any resin near his skin. If you, by all means, I would highly recommend that you wear gloves and you take all the usual precautions that you should be taking when you're using resin of any kind. So that's wear gloves, wear a respirator mask, and work in a well ventilated area. Now he's squidged, I love that word, squidged a lot of UV resin in, and now he's just using that silicone tipped tool there, just persuading the resin to go out to the edges. He's then going in with a heat tool just to make sure it is all up to the outer edges of that hoop. Just pressing down on the inner hoop there. And as you can see, some of the resin is going to seep underneath because it's not glued into place at all, that inner hoop. But he's just trying to make sure he's trying rid of as many bubbles as possible and just making sure it's an even coating. There you go. Now he's going to use the UV light. Now he did this in the end for about 5 lots of 60 seconds. So 5 minutes curing under the UV lamp there. So that outer one is completely cured. He then repeated the process using the UV resin with the inner circle. And this is what he did. He took it off of the greaseproof or parchment paper. And this is what he had. So he's got a bit where the resin has spilt out, spread slightly underneath it. That is also a bit of hot glue, so he's just taking off the hot glue, which obviously is no longer hot, but he's taking off the hot glue. That came off quite easy, and unfortunately there is a little bit of mottling on the resin itself. I mean, if you want to, you can take a very fine grade sandpaper to it and just sand lightly over it. Totally up to you if you want to do that. Now we've got a selection of things to add into this. Some of them are some beautiful butterflies, and then some of these now these are made of acrylic. These are flowers, acrylic flowers, and what Wayne wanted to do is make it double-sided, this window hanger. So he has stuck 2 of the same coloured roses or flowers together so that you can have it either way, so double-sided. So obviously you bear this in mind when you arrange where you want your dried pressed flowers to go to as well. Now bits of this video have been sped up because, you know, placing these things where you want them to go and then actually securing them in place takes a while. And you don't want to sit for a couple of hours whilst Wayne decides what he's going to put where and so on. He's also got, as you can see in the top left hand corner of the screen there, those are some little acrylic 3D butterflies. They are beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And there's one other thing actually that he does also include in his final design choice for this, which is some PET butterfly stickers. Now we tried to get 2 that were as close to the same as we could get them, and then stuck them together before placing them down into this beautiful window hanging window decoration. I love the flowers he's got there at the moment. They are dried pressed hydrangea flowers. It's just so delicate, really, really beautiful. And I think this, I mean, because we haven't made one of these before, definitely not used this kind of technique either. And just, I think the results really speak for themselves. They're absolutely stunning. So he has made up, so he decided where he wanted to place everything. And then, as I was saying, he's made up some Tea Expert resin. So it's regular epoxy resin, 1-to-1 mixing ratio. Put it through the degassing machine. So got rid of as many bubbles as possible. And there we go. And just made sure that everything was outer to the edges that it needed to be. And then started to put his flowers, the butterflies, the little acrylic roses, the dried grasses, the gypsophilia, the hydrangea flowers, everything from his original design into the placement as near as he could to where he had them. Now, he's using the epoxy resin that he's poured in a very thin layer as glue. Just trying not to introduce too many more bubbles into the resin itself as you add in all these beautiful embellishments. Now, you could use anything in this. You could have it all butterflies. You could change it up completely and you could introduce different colours. So you could add in some lovely green foliage. You could have, I've just thought of an idea. Sorry. I've got to stop doing this. What you could do is you could have a beehive. So if you've got a PET sticker of a beehive or a cutout that you can laminate and put in, and then make a beautiful 3D bee itself using epoxy resin, using mica powders, or craft one from some air dried clay and then paint it. Wow, you could have those in this. I mean, beautiful. And then lots of lovely pressed dried daisies perhaps, and some, you could use the green foliage as grass. I mean, really, you could do anything and everything. You could make it all like stained glass patterned if you wanted to as well. So Wayne is using some tweezers and also one of our little, I want to call it my little pokey sticks, but it's actually a micro brush. So they've got a purple handle. It's a micro brush without the little foam brush bit on the end. And he's just going in there. Now, you would have seen his hand frantically going across the centre circle piece of the frame, the centre circle frame, before he started putting any of the flowers in there. And he was just getting rid of some of the little surface bubbles that had come up, just in case you wondered what on earth was going on. Now, look. There is the first of those beautiful butterfly PET stickers. So he's just pressed it down slightly and you can see the resin is just going over the top of it. And there's the other one. So we thought these colours really complemented the, the dried flowers and the little roses and the 3D butterflies as well. And we just really, really like this piece. It's just really strange to say this, but it almost promotes a feeling of peace and tranquility. So he let that cure up completely, and then this is 24 hours later. He's putting in a top coat of resin. So it's sealing in everything that he has added to this piece. There you go. So that's now filling it up. So this is a multi-layering piece that he's done. So he's done the UV resin first, he's done one very thin layer of epoxy resin, he's now doing the final coat of epoxy resin on this side. So there we go. He's just trying to make sure that any little bubbles that are caught there and they come up to the surface, just getting rid of them using that little silicone tool that he's got there, or a little micro brush as well. And then just pouring it into the outer circle, the outer frame part, going in as close as you can up the top there, because you can see there's not very much of a gap up around the top. So again, this is where your little micro brush stick and also that silicone tipped tool come in very, very handy. Just continuing to top it up, put a little bit in, let it settle, let it self-level, and then add a bit more if you need to add a bit more, and so on. So there we go. Just doing that now. and then round the bottom. Now we did with the idea of perhaps putting in some glitter into the resin, but then decided against that completely. We wanted to keep this as clear glass as possible. So just doing a last few tidying up bits there with some little bubbles that had appeared up around the top. Being careful not to move this as well. So once he was completely happy with it, he'll spritz it with some isopropyl alcohol just to get rid of any little surface tension bubbles. But obviously there's going to be a lot that come up to the surface, so you do need to babysit this, just in case any more come up. So we've got some leftover epoxy resin, and you know us, we don't waste resin. He'd also got some of these leftover flowers and of course some of that lovely iridescent glitter, which is a favourite of mine. He wasn't too keen on putting it in, but I thought go for it. So at this point he's adding in all those remaining flowers, acrylic flowers that he hadn't used. Adding in a few of the singular ones. These are all singular actually, not doubles. So these ones hadn't been glued together. And adding in a few more colours, so we've got a nice choice. And as usual, everything we've used in today's video will be linked in the description box below. Don't think we have any discount codes for any of these currently, but if you like BB Craft, we do have a discount code for that. It's Lottie10, but that's also listed in the description box. I think that's valid through until something like June this year. And if in the future, if we have any further discount codes for you, we will of course list them. We also have a website that's live, so why don't you check that out? That will have a lot of the pieces that you've seen in last year's videos available for sale. So why not check that out as well? One thing to point out though is please do check everything regarding delivery to whichever country you're in, because some of the items we cannot ship. Some countries we can't ship to, and some of the items, it's normally eco resin items, we're not really prepared to ship them outside of the UK. This is due to it's for various reasons, one of which is the weight of these items, because they're a lot heavier than epoxy resin items, and it just means that we can't guarantee that they will arrive with you in the condition that we'd like them to be in, if you know what I mean. So Wayne has added in quite a lot of these beautiful little acrylic rose flowers, and then also a little bit of that beautiful white iridescent glitter, and mixed it in. And then we've got a lovely little heart-shaped trinket bowl mould here. Now this would sit in the palm of your hand. It's not massive. It's just, it's just that sort of size, so it's great for putting in maybe by the side of your bed, on your nightstand or bedside table, and just popping in your earrings or rings or a necklace that you take off, anything you take off when you get into bed in the way of jewellery, and that you wanted to pop it somewhere. If you haven't got a jewellery box to pop it in, why not pop it in this beautiful little trinket shaped or little trinket bowl, beautiful heart shaped bowl. So one thing we noted when pouring this in is you tend to get a lot of resin and maybe not a lot of the flowers. So we stopped that, and Wayne is now just carefully persuading each of those lovely little acrylic flowers, roses, to go down the sides of the mould, and also trying to ensure that there aren't lots of air gaps, bubbles and all that other stuff that you don't want in your finished piece. So there we go. He's just going round using that acrylic, silicone tipped tool to do that. So we've got a lot of them there. Just putting in the last few. Now we did and ah about whether or not to put them also on the base part, so that'd be the top part that you can see there, which doesn't have any flowers on it currently. But if you do that, you're going to have an uneven bottom to your pot. Then you're going to have to think, well, if it's either going to be sanding it or pouring another coat of resin over it. And the idea is you use up leftover resin to make this. You don't then go make the job more complicated than it needs to be. So we put as many flowers in as possible. And then we thought, let's tie it in with these other butterflies that we used in the the window hanging that he's done, which is of course what makes up the main part of this video. So we've got just one butterfly PET sticker. Now this is a bit large for this mould, I will admit that, but it's beautiful. So Wayne is here now, as you can see, not struggling, he is persevering. Perseverance pays off for this, it certainly does. He's using that little micro brush just to poke the edges of that PET sticker just down in there into the mould, and then pressing it down to get the resin to go up over the top of it. And then it's fingers crossed that it works, to be honest. Fingers crossed. But I think it was quite successful. Obviously, I've already seen the finished piece, and it's lovely. Would make a lovely present, Mother's Day present, or just a nice little keepsake, perhaps a little thank you present for a teacher or a friend. You know, you've got anybody that's going through anything particularly hard at the moment, then why not give it to them as a little gift, saying, you know, I'm just thinking of you, thought you might like this sort of thing. Particularly if they like roses or flowers, lovely little flowers, and butterflies. So this is a good 24 hours later. I'm just demoulding this lovely little heart-shaped trinket tray. I said it's about the size, it fits in the palm of your hand, so it's not huge, but it's not ever so tiny. And look at that. Lovely. See, the glitter is just glittering away, if there's such a word as glittering away. And all of those lovely little roses just showing up there on the outside of the bowl, of this lovely little heart-shaped bowl. Now, decisions. Wayne did think, let's see what this looks like with a backing on it. So we've got just some white, well, it's just a bit of white card really here. As you can see, we've used it for a few things because it's got gold flake and all sorts all over it, just to see, is it going to look better if we put something white on the back. So he decided to use this we got self-adhesive felt. It's not very thick. Cut out the heart shape and then has just stuck it down onto the back. So it provides the effect that we wanted it to, and it also just protects any surfaces that you put the pot down onto. Not that it was particularly sharp or anything, but you know, just finishes it off. There we go. Of course, you don't have to do that at all. You could pour another little bit of resin over the back, white resin, but there it is. So it just shows up that butterfly beautifully. Right, back now to the wall hanging, or not wall, I keep calling it wall hanging. You could use it as a wall hanging or as a window hanging decoration. Now, Wayne wasn't completely happy with the dimpling. I don't know, he's probably showing up more there in the glare of our lights. Like a little bit of mottling or dimpling happening in the resin. So he's taken some very, very fine sandpaper and he's just gone over the surface there. Now, obviously do clean down then the surface, so it's nice and clean. And what he's then going to do is he's put it on some greaseproof paper and he's going to pour another very, very thin coating of epoxy resin. Very thin. And just trying to disguise some of that dimpling that's going on there. So here we go, slowly and steadily pouring the resin over the whole of the back of this lovely hanging window decoration. And again, as I said, this is T-Expert resin. It's 1:1 mixing ratio. He's put it through the degassing machine that we have. He's put it through it a couple of times to get it as clear as possible. Look how that's brought that back to life. Wow. It's incredibly clear. And in some ways, that's a bad thing because it's then not very forgiving. But it's very, very clear. And it just brings the whole piece back to life. Now he's using that silicone tipped tool there just to persuade the resin out to the edges, the outermost edges of both of those wooden frames. And I think this looks beautiful. A tray would look lovely in this sort of design, using these elements. And to be honest with you, you could use a tray and have it not the ones that come up with the lip up the side, and just have it as a long oblonged piece that you would then use to hang in a window or even on a wall. You could have it in 3 different sizes, a bit like if you saw the eco resin with the butterflies and the mandala lace doily inserts that I did a couple of videos ago. If you saw that one, if you haven't, why not go back to our playlist after this and check it out. And you could have that was a large, medium and a small version. And I'm sure I said in that video that you could actually have them linked together with some chain or some ribbon. So you had the big one, the biggest at the top, mediums obviously in the middle, and the smallest one at the bottom, and then tie it up and have it on a wall as a hanging piece, a lovely hanging decoration. You could do exactly the same with this. You could do 3 separate circles. You didn't have to do 2 circles in one like we've got here. There's so many options. You could have 2 circles attached to one another where they're up against one another rather than inside one another. There's just so many different options here that you could have. Now, he's almost come to the end of the piece here. He literally is just persuading that resin to go right up to the very edges of that outer wooden frame. He'll then spritz it with some isopropyl alcohol and we'll let it cure for 24 hours before he moves on to the next step. So here we are, he's almost ready to move on to the next stage, just finishing off persuading that resin to go to all the outer edges of those wooden hoops. So here it is, fully cured 24 hours later, looking absolutely beautiful. Now, to secure, whether you use chain or ribbon or twine or jute cord, whatever you use, you've got to be able to attach it to the outer frame in order for it to be a hanging decoration, of course. So what Wayne's just showing you is some miniature eyelet hooks that he is going to secure into the frame. Now he's lining it up as best however he wants it to hang. Obviously, you line it up to the position you want. Now make sure that whatever tool you use, whether it's battery operated, or cordless like this one, or if it's a handheld mini drill, that it is securely held in place whilst you do your drilling. Now go careful when you're using a drill, as always. Take the proper safety precautions. Don't drill down too far because you'll drill into the resin. So he's drilled in a little and he's just measuring it up there with the eyelet hook or the eyelet screw, just to see whether or not it was drilled down far enough, and it was. Now this is such that he's able to screw the eyelet hook or loop in there, the eyelet screw in, as he's doing there. Tightening, screw it in as far as you can by hand, and then what Wayne's actually done after that is just got a set of pliers. They're actually jewellery making pliers, and tightened it up a little bit further. Here we go, look, these are called flat nose pliers, and he is just tightening up. Obviously you use what you have to hand. You don't have to go out and specifically buy these particular type of pliers. You just use what you have and you feel comfortable using. So there you go, there he is, as you can see. Now this is a close-up. You need to have jump rings, so you have 2 eyelet screws and 2 jump rings. Jump rings, when you open them, do not pull them away from one another. You need to use either 1 or 2 sets of pliers, obviously one in each hand like you're seeing here, and you do them forwards and backwards like you're opening a door or closing a door. Wayne's just demonstrated there what we mean by that. Do not pull them apart from one another, because you'll weaken the metal and they will snap. So Wayne's opted to use some chain. This just happens to be some chain that we have from when we used to do a lot of jewellery making. You can use whatever you want. So ribbon would look just as beautiful in this. Maybe some velvet ribbon or something. So he's reopened up. He's measured the length of chain that he wants and then cut it to length. And then he is attaching the chain using those jump rings that you opened and closed. So you reopen them carefully like you're opening the door, and then you pop it through the link on the end link on the chain, and then you close the jump ring again carefully, and then you repeat the process on the other side of the wooden hoop like he's just about to do now. So you can't see a close-up, unfortunately, of this, and mainly Wayne's hand in the shot. It's quite difficult to film these sorts of things unless you've got multiple cameras set up, which, you know, we don't have that kind of setup yet. Not yet. Who knows in the future. So just dropping it through. There we are, threading it onto the chain. He's gone through 2 links of the chain just to be extra safety precaution there. Because obviously you don't want to hang this up and then find that after a couple of days it falls. That's the other thing. So when you're closing the jump ring, do make sure that they do meet. The 2 ends of the jump ring meet. And if you happen to have a soldering kit and you're good at jewellery soldering, then why not solder them closed as well? There we go. So he's happy with that. There's the finished piece with the chain. Looking beautiful. And then we're on to the end shot here. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video. We really like this. There are so many different things that you could do, options and so on. If anybody's got any hints, tips or tricks, then why not pop them in the comments. And thanks for watching and liking and sharing and subscribing. And we will see you again in a few days with another video. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.